Since the earliest days of our nation, residents of the capital city have fought for self-government, also known as home rule. When Congress first convened in the new District of Columbia in 1800, it voted to assume exclusive jurisdiction of the district. This gave Congress, not D.C. citizens, control over Washington, D.C., a situation directly at odds with American democracy. Citizens in the district favoring self-government have been fighting ever since. Over the decades, Congress has introduced more than 150 resolutions calling for D.C. rights and local autonomy. Through these trying years, D.C. residents experienced minimal home rule, despite repeated attempts by members of Congress to grant the city an elected government.
Charles Horsky drafted legislation that would provide home rule, and he did this in the Johnson administration. That didn't prevail because the chairman of the House D.C. committee at that time was vigorously opposed to self-government for the district.
A change was coming.
The vote is the most powerful instrument ever devised by man for breaking down injustice and destroying the terrible walls which imprison men because they're different.
On August 5, 1965, the same day President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and D.C.'s first congressional delegate, Walter Fauntroy, led a march to the White House calling for home rule in D.C. There was no turning back. 8 years later, on December 24, 1973, Congress enacted the District of Columbia Home Rule Act, providing for a popularly elected mayor and 13-member council. Under current home rule, Congress retains authority to review all legislation passed by the council, as well as exclusive control over the district's budget, while the president appoints its judges. D.C. residents finally had our greatest form of self-determination to date.
It wasn't easy, and there was a great deal of negotiation that went into the passage of the Home Rule Act, but ultimately they were successful. I think it's also important to understand that this was in many ways bound up with the civil rights movement. Indeed, the Home Rule Act of 1973 was a civil rights victory. So it's no surprise that in those early home rule governments, you see veterans of those movements, people like Julius Hobson and Marion Barry, who had really cut their teeth on the front lines of the civil rights movement, enter into service in the fledgling home rule government in the early 70s.
The struggle for home rule in the district has always been about fair and equal treatment. We have come a long way after 50 years. Today, we look forward with hope and justice for all.